Hey guys, welcome back to I'm an Actor, Not a Therapist. I'm Sammy. So, what's going on? Before we get into today's episode, I first have to say thank you for all of you out there that for the past couple of weeks have really embraced this show, loved this show, listened to all the episodes, wrote comments, got in touch with me on Instagram, found me on TikTok, all of these things to get in touch with me and tell me how much you've been loving the episodes and how much you're loving the podcast. And that does not go unnoticed. And I love it. And it's mind-blowingly amazing that you all have embraced this podcast as quickly as you all have. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you, because I would not be doing this without the encouragement that I first got from some friends, and now the absolute overwhelming support that I have received since episode 1. So just wanted to start this episode by saying thank you. So since the last episode came out, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I do that a lot. I do a lot of thinking. And one of the things that I was thinking about was this thought process, this notion that we all have of, we all say it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to ask for help. If you're a creative, sometimes you have to ask help from other people to get a project done. You need to ask your friend for help with changing light bulbs or cleaning the house or something. We all have to ask for help at some point with something, whether it's something big or something small, right? But the whole notion of how do we ask for help? Because asking for help, while it is one of the bravest things you can do, is sometimes also one of the hardest things you can do. There is an author that put out a book called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. With my friend group, we all love this book and we all love the author. And one of the quotes, for some reason I can't remember the author's name, so I'm helping myself here. Charlie Mackesy, or Mackesy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right, but The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And there's a line in the book that says something along the lines of, what was the hardest thing you ever had to say? And I believe it's the mole. And the mole just says, help. Because while it's a necessary thing that we have to do sometimes, to ask for help. Again, it doesn't have to be something earth-shattering. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be anything big. But sometimes the hardest thing to say is, I need help. And that's the hardest thing to say for some of us who are absolutely fiercely independent, who spent a lot of time doing things for ourselves, figuring things out for ourselves, being alone to figure things out for ourselves, having the outside world tell us that we needed to do things ourselves. And so, for some people it's very easy to ask for help, and I admire those people, because I have the hardest time asking for help, good or bad. I'm an actor, I'm a director, I'm a playwright, and whenever I have a project that I want actors to be involved in, even for stuff like that, I have the hardest time asking for people for help. I have the hardest time approaching somebody and going, hey, do you want to be part of this with me? So the thought of asking for help when I'm not okay is even harder. If I find it hard to ask my friend, hey, I've got this thing that I'd love for you to at least read, or if you're interested in being in, I'd love for you to participate with me. If I find it hard to do that, I find it even harder to look at somebody that I know and go, hey, I'm not okay right now, and I need help. I just need you to exist with me. I just need another person with me right now. It's one of the hardest things to do. So the question becomes, how do we ask for help, right? Because you could, ask for help like you're screaming fire in a movie theater. You know what I mean? You could ask for help loudly. Sometimes asking for help, the word help doesn't necessarily have to be used. So what I've come to kind of start doing when I do need help and I can't necessarily say the words, I need help, I say something like, hey, are you awake right now? Hey, do you have a few minutes? Can we talk about something? Hey, I was thinking about this and I'd like another person's opinion. So there, for me at least, I have found different ways of asking for help. Reaching out to a mentor and saying, this is how I'm feeling right now. What do you think? I'm not asking them. It's very important to know the difference. When I reach out to somebody and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? I'm not asking them to tell me whether I'm right or wrong. I just need somebody to hear me out. I just need a sounding board. I need somebody on the other end of the phone or at the other side of the table to just listen. There's also different kinds of help that you can give to people. You could be there to listen. You can be there to offer to fix. You can be there to offer a solution, which is different than a fix. And what my friends and I have kind of taken to doing is I say to a friend, hey, can I run something by you? Or, however I decide to ask for help. And they hear me out. And then I get, do you want me to just listen? Or do you want me to try to help? Because sometimes the need for help is just the need of knowing that there's somebody else out there to listen to you. We don't always ask for help for solutions. Sometimes we just want to be heard. And that should be recognized as being difficult as well, because especially if you have something like anxiety or depression or social anxiety or, trauma in your life or something like that, sometimes asking for help is just asking for somebody to listen. It's that person needing the reassurance that there's somebody on the other end of that phone. As an example, and I'll be real honest, it hasn't been a great couple of weeks for me in my own head. And there have been a couple of times where I've spiraled. I completely spiraled this past Friday. And I was online with a couple of my friends, and I said to them, I said, I can feel a spiral coming. I wasn't there yet. I said, I could feel a spiral coming. And their reaction was, what's going on? Essentially, it was, what's going on? And so I laid everything out, and they patiently listened, and they were there when I needed them. They didn't try to fix. They just were able to give me something else to think about. They were very reassuring. They validated that I was spiraling, and they made sure, both of them, to tell me that they loved me. And again, sometimes when you're spiraling like that and you allow somebody into your spiral, it's a way of letting people know that they are trusted. If I didn't trust my two friends that I was talking to, I wouldn't have said anything to them. But because in that moment, I knew that I was in a safe space to kind of ask for help, I did. So, and, today I feel better. It'll get better. Taking deep breaths and everything like that. Journaling helps. Talking helps. But in between the talking and the journaling, you still have to go back to your own head. And sometimes it's a very interesting place to be. All this to say that you also have to, there's this element to asking for help that, again, is not really talked about a whole lot. Because when we talk about asking for help, we say, ask your friends, ask your teachers, ask your parents, ask your therapist, ask somebody in your life that you trust for help. But I don't know about you guys, but sometimes and I love my parents, I do, and I go to them when I need them. But sometimes there are just things that your parents can't handle with you. There are some times, sorry, I've been sitting on that cough forever. There are some times that you have a very specific safe space person that you go to, and asking for help, if you've never asked for help before, or you need to ask for help and you're not entirely sure how, think about the person that you either A, spend the most time with, or B, who you tell the most to. And I'm not saying, tell the person that, you give your everyday to, so where you could have people in your life that you go to, say, every day, but you do nothing more than say, talk about the weather, how was work, how's your family, things like that, the surface stuff. While that might be a friend, that might not be somebody that I can only talk from personal experience. I don't know what everybody's relationships look like with everybody in everybody's life, so I don't want to make it sound like I do, because I absolutely don't. But for me, I need to know that when I'm talking to you, A, the conversation's not going to leave us. B, that you are an absolute safe space for me. And C, that it is a complete judgment-free zone, where when I'm done talking, no matter what it is, at the end of the conversation, this person is not going to get up and leave my life. That's a safe space for me. That's a safe person for me. And I am very lucky that I have several of those people in my life. And I hope that you out there have somebody in your life that is that for you. Because when learning to ask for help or when learning to ask for help or asking for help, it needs to be with somebody like that, with somebody that is absolutely 1,000% a complete and total safe space for you. Because if it's not, it's just going to make asking for help that much harder and that much more difficult. And then you never know where that conversation will wind up. As an example of this, I had two friends that, would think nothing of screenshotting private conversations and showing them to people. And these are two people that I consider to be safe spaces for me. And once that trust was broken, I never went back to them with anything again. Ever. That's how fast it can get ruined. So, in learning to ask for help, in asking for help, take stock of yourself and how the person you're talking to makes you feel during a normal conversation. If you feel like you're walking on eggshells with the person you're talking to, that is not a safe space. That is not somebody that I would go to with anything in terms of asking for help. Just an observation from a woman who is an actor and not a therapist, who lives every day with anxiety, depression, and the crippling fear of having to ask for help or having to ask for favors. To be me in my own head sometimes, it's amazing. But that's what I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about this concept of asking people for help. Because, I'm in an industry, I'm in a business that you really can't do much by yourself. I'm a playwright, and that is a singular activity unless I take on a co-writer, which I don't. I could, but I don't. So in order to get my stuff off the ground and seen or read, I have to ask for help. And I've been fortunate in that sometimes I get told yes, but I've been told no a number of times. That's the nature of the business. But it at least took that first stepping stone of me approaching the person and asking for the help. Because in acting, I'm just going to use acting because that's my world. In acting specifically, unless you're doing a one-person show, nobody is ever on stage completely by themselves. Theater is very, very much a team sport, and I've been saying that for years. Theater is very much a team sport. Being in movies is very much a team sport. Even sometimes doing TikTok videos is very much a team sport, a team effort, even if there's only one person in the video. I can't tell you the amount of times I've recorded something and then had to ask for help from somebody and say, hey, does this look right? Does this sound right? Take a look at this before I post it. So anything, pretty much anything creative, at some point you have to ask for help. And it can be very daunting to do, but I don't want to call it a necessary evil, because I don't think asking for help is evil at all. I think asking for help is completely necessary in art and in life. You're not going to go through, there's no way to go through life without having to ask for help at least once from somebody, So all this to say, while it is incredibly daunting sometimes to have to ask for help and incredibly daunting to go to a person and say, hey, can I talk to you for a second because I need help with something? Or, hey, I'm not okay right now. Saying the words out loud to somebody, as absolutely scary, daunting as it is something that we all have to do at some point or another. So, going back to how to ask for help. If you need to use the actual words, hey, I need help, you can always practice, and it might feel weird at first, but it'll get easier. A friend of mine actually helped me ask for help the other day, because I also have a crippling fear of asking for things in general. So asking for help is painful sounding to me sometimes. So she said to me, ask me for something, anything. She goes, you could pull it out of the sky. Ask me for anything. Ask me to do anything for you. She goes, and we'll go through a yes and we'll go through a no. And I said, okay. So I sat there for a minute and I said, hey, can we at some point over the weekend, do a video call? Because she doesn't live here in Jersey. She lives out in California. I said, can we at some point do a video call to talk about a couple of the creative projects we've been talking about? I don't remember what her answer was. I don't think I ever actually got one for that. And not because she wasn't cognizant of what was happening. I think the message just got lost in the conversation we were having, so I don't think she actually ever heard it. But the point is, I was able to get my words out in a safe environment of practice almost. This was such a good example until I realized she didn't answer the question. Shoot. I started out so strong, you guys. I really, really did. But again, all this to say, at some point or another, we all need help in some way, shape, or form. And there is nothing wrong with that. And there is no shame in asking for help for anything. And I wish all of you out there how do I want to word this? I wish all of you out there the courage, there we go, the courage to be able to ask for help if you really need the help. Because until you ask, you'll never know, right? You'll never know. But I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope you all will tune in again next week for another fun-filled episode. And who knows, maybe in a few weeks we might have a guest on. Of course, I will keep you all posted on that. We are now on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at actor_not_a_therapist. That is our Instagram. If you search I'm an actor, not a therapist on Insta, you'll find us. And also subscribe. Hit the buttons to subscribe. That would be insanely helpful. Thank you so much. And I hope that you all have an absolutely beautiful week. Have a great day.